questions up front. Yes, Tom.
Sir,
Yes.
I have never understood drum solos very well. I guess sometimes they seem like a lot of banging and a lot of noise banging. No idea what's going on. How do you construct a drum solo, or what do you think or feel about, or how can I make it more accessible to me?
Accessible, well, I guess it's very subjective too, but for me when I'm constructing constructing a drum solo, I should say, a lot of times I'm basing it off of what's going on around me in the group. It's very it's the jazz language is it's a conversation between one another. It's not really one-sided. So even though if I'm being featured in a solo, I'm still aware of what's going on around me. So I kind of feed off of that. In this particular tune, at the end it's kind of a vamp, so I'm kind of using parts of the melody to kind of help construct my solo and build from there. But there's other times where there's other pieces where they might have me soloing within the form of a song, so I have to be aware of where the changes of the song is. So they might have one section which might be 8 bars, another section that might be 9 or 10 bars or whatever, and then another section that might be 8 bars. So I try to just be mindful of how the song, how to shape the song, and then build my solos like that.
Yes, and then you first, sir.
One, that's a real good question. I always say that question. 2, if you were to play another set, and that same song would come up, would you play that exactly the same way the solo?
No, you just
what I played.
Whatever. No, I mean it's that's the great thing about this music. It's a free expression. It's in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So what I played just now, we can play the same song. It's gonna sound different. This music is also about your mood and how you're feeling. So your mood changes. So I might feel one way about the song, and then we play it again, it might feel different. So it's gonna hopefully.
Here's the follow-up. So that one solo you did, that's basically erased from your memory.
Yeah, because it was just in the moment. It's just what I heard, what I felt then.
Got it.
But it's not like written out and I'm reading it or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like that's what improvisation is. It's coming up with it from the top of your head. So, almost like when we speak, you can formulate a sentence, you kind of have an idea, but you kind of expand on it or make changes as you're going along. It's not like, okay, I may say this right now, but this is coming over at the top of your head even when you're asking a question.
Great, thank you.
I would say to further that analogy just a little bit, if we were to play that song again, the song is the same, so what we would be improvising would be different, and yet it would be within this common structure, so there would be some coherence from one performance to the next. So by the same token, if you asked me about my dinner 5 times, I would give you 5 different answers, but there would be some common thread to those 5 answers that would be different from if you asked me about changing the oil in my car. Unless that's what I ate for dinner, but it wasn't. Yes, Kate.
I just had I had a question about, you're saying, after 9 bars you change or whatever. But you're not actually counting the bars. Are you hearing the melody in your head?
I'm hearing the melody in my head. I hear the song as a whole, and I figure out how I want to shape it based off of the whole song.
But you can hear the chords, even if they stop playing, you're still hearing the chords in your head. Yeah. And I just want
It helps that I wrote it though.
Yeah. I think a lot of people hear the drums and they hear like just the kind of banging noise, but there's actual tones in the drums, aren't there?
There are. I tune the pitches, usually like triads. Sometimes I'll go to the piano and punch out a chord and tune the drums accordingly to that.
Would you be able to like demonstrate? Like, what's the lowest note to highest note on your drum set?
Well, the bass drum is usually the lowest note, and then the floor tom, which is about an octave away from each other, and then here, and then it's usually a snare drum is tuned higher.
Charlie next, and then.
Yeah, could you say a little bit about the rhythm? I was trying to follow the beat and I couldn't tell if it's changing from measure to measure or what. Could you describe that?
The rhythm on this song. Well, I think I'll pass it along to the composer.
Well, there's an underlying rhythm going on, and it's stated by the bass first, and it's I don't really think what it's kind of the underlying rhythm, and then so that's like a quarter note followed by like a dotted eighth note, and that's played in. I guess it's played over a 4-bar phrase basically, and the 4-bar phrase is repeated, but that theme kind of goes throughout the whole piece, and then the melodies on top of that. Is that basically?
And then within that, we were doing a lot to play around with that. So there was this, if there were a metronome or a click track going throughout what we were doing in the background, I like to think we would have been obeying that, but very rarely were we explicitly stating that. So sort of using that shared point of reference for what the more rigid tempo was, and then all weaving around that together with, if we were doing our job right, a sense of sort of shared security that core pulse remained. So unfortunately, it's another thing, as he was describing the solo, where I don't honestly remember. We'll have to go back to the videotape but to an instant replay to figure out exactly what rhythms we were playing there. But thank you. Yes.
I was wondering, when was the standard to allow the drummer such leeway to vamp, I believe the word you used, compared to the other players where kind of restricted to the music sheet?
When historically?
Well, like what originated? Where did that stem from?
Oh, that stemmed from this rehearsal we had right before.
No, I've seen many concerts
Yeah, I'm sure,
before,
I'm sure.
and the drummer never has a music stand or music sheet. There's
Well-
always, I understand about the communication, but yet there seems to be no restriction on the drummer's part.
Again, I wrote the song, so I should try. With this, actually in this particular song, there was no drum solo originally, and it was just more of like a piece on the record. It was a piece that featured 2 horns, piano, and bass, and it was just more of like I didn't necessarily want to solo it. It was just more of I wanted to hear the melody played and have some other guys solo it. But we were rehearsing it today, and and then at the end there's just like a vamp over like the last 4 measures of the tune, and we kind of just talked about it. He's like, "Man, do you think you can play a little bit over that?" I said, "Man, yeah." So it wasn't like written into the music. It was just something that kind of came up at the spur of the moment.
Can we actually try an experiment, go back to Freefall, and I think it's actually surprising when it sounds like the drummer is playing really free, it's surprising how much structure there actually is in there. Unless you think this is crazy, I'd like to try the experiment where we play through the head once with you not actually playing any of the hits and just playing time and playing whatever, and then we play it again where you're actually playing the song.
So you mean just playing?
Like if it was the equivalent of like, you didn't write the song, but you have no music in front of you, and I just said, yeah, it's a straight 8th vibe of this tempo, to hear what a difference it actually makes when you are playing these subtle yet really important structures within the tune. Okay. So let's try it like right where the melody comes in. Yeah. So this will be with the drums playing with quote unquote total freedom. So hopefully it doesn't mess us up. 1, 2, 1, 2. Again, the fact that he doesn't have a music stand is deceptive here because he wrote the tunes, so he's supposed to know. So this is what it would actually sound like if he was playing all these things, where it's not drawing attention to the rhythmic structures that he is playing, and yet you'll hear how it all starts to come together in a way that it didn't just a moment ago. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 2.
I'm basing the rhythm off of what the bass player and the left hand of the piano is doing to kind of help again to like kind of shape the piece. So like the first time when we played it and we were giving an example, I'm playing a little more open. You might not necessarily hear the whole shape of the tune, but when you take little things like putting the accents of playing what the bass is playing or in the left hand of the piano, it kind of gives the overall tune a different shape. You can kind of hear the different phrases in the tune.
In general, the balance between freedom and structure is a real kind of tightrope walk in jazz, I find, because freedom doesn't necessarily mean anarchy. If nobody can tell you what your bedtime is, it doesn't mean you never go to sleep. It just means you have a certain degree of flexibility within the broader structure of what actually makes sense. And so a really good, well, I was going to say drummer, but really any jazz player is taking advantage of freedom while simultaneously being sensitive to what's actually going to work with the big picture of what's going on. Is there anyone else who has questions that can't wait till after we play another song?
Oh, no.
Like, will you forget, or will it no longer be relevant?
Well, mine was a drum history question. When do you think the drummer became more prominent in that freedom and directing role? From you as a drummer, in your drum history analogies, who would you think or group of drummers pioneered that kind of forward utilization of their kit versus 4/4 swing as a swinger?
Well, it's funny, going back and checking out the history of jazz drummers, even before the drum set was created, because it was, before it was more like 6 or 7, like almost like it was like a marching band. Like in New Orleans, it was more of like 6 or 7 drummers. One had, the hi-hat or this, the crash cymbal. Somebody played bass drum, somebody played snare. And even though there was written music, they were still improvising on top of it. If you check out some of the older recordings, a lot of people think, oh, it's just like. But if you really listen, those guys are really doing some other things within the context of again the structure of the tune might have been. So I always feel like it was always evolving and I guess with the evolution of the drums, some of the pioneers like Papa Joe Jones, Big Sid Catlett, Chick Webb, they were all, improvisers. So they were all, Chick Webb had his own big band, so the drums were always, playing a prominent role, and I think just with the enhancement of, recording and stuff, you actually get to hear the drums more prominently.
Because I tend to think, more contemporaneously, like bebop onward, and that was a good schooling for me, because I know of them, but, I think of Max and Roy Haynes in the early 50s and what they
Well,
did.
they definitely helped shape the sound of bebop drumming, but I always feel like, even like, I'm a big history buff when it comes to music, so I'm always about trying to discover where things originated from, and going back and listening to some of these old recordings. Some of them were not recorded that well, but you actually hear, what's going on in the percussion ensemble behind, somebody like Louis Armstrong or these guys. And it's like, wow, they're improvising. It's not necessarily just like keeping time.
Okay, so we will field plenty more questions, but I'm itching to play another one of Johnathan's tunes. Do you want to? By the way, I don't think we said what the first one was called.
The first tune we played was a composition of mine entitled Freefall, and I was telling them there's a kind of funny story. I was playing this a few years ago outside of Central Park. It was a concert series that they had. And I announced to them that it didn't have a title at the time. So I said, this is a newer composition or a new tune, I said. And so a lady from the audience came up and she was like, did you say the song was called Newton? For Sir Isaac Newton. I said, no, it's called New Tune. I don't have a title for it. So she was like, when I thought you said Newton, I started thinking about, Newton's law or Newton's concept of free fall. I was like, oh man. It's actually kind of cool. So that's how the title came about. I think we're going to continue on with another original composition for a gentleman that I only got to work with a few times. He actually played on my father's last recording, and I think I did a couple gigs with him, a trio, and also some more larger ensemble. Things of his name, he was a great pianist. His name was Mulgrew Miller. Unfortunately lost him. It was 2 years ago now almost. I was very fortunate and honored to the time that I did have with him. And we always want our heroes to stick around as long as, but like I said, I was glad to be able to see him and hear him play on many occasions, and then also share bands. So this is a tune I wrote in dedication to him called Middletown. Not to confuse with This is Middletown.
Yes.
Who is Johnathan Blake and why does he play and write the way he does?
Teacher.
I assume that question is directed towards me.
No, it's not.
Johnathan Blake was born in 1976, July 1st, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Grew up in Philadelphia. His father is a jazz violinist, or was a jazz violinist, John Blake Jr. My mom's a school teacher. Coming up in Philadelphia, growing up in Philadelphia was it's still to this day, for the most part, such a great music town. I had a lot of mentors. And, first and foremost, my father, and then
His name was?
John Blake Jr. And then others like Mickey Roker, Lovett Hines, who was one of my first jazz teachers. He conducted a youth ensemble, and that's where I met friends and fellow musicians such as Jaleel Shaw, who now plays with Roy Haynes. He plays alto saxophone. Christian McBride, Joey DeFrancesco. These were some of Mr. Hines' students. So, growing up and being nurtured by these great individuals. Also, I have to mention drummers such as Mickey Roker, played a long time with Ray Brown, Edgar Bateman, and also Bob Dorn. These were all gentlemen and ladies also such as Shirley Scott and Trudy Pitts, who were so nurturing to us young musicians coming up, and really took the time to teach us the ropes. Sometimes you get musicians who are older who don't have time to kind of share the knowledge that they have. But growing up in Philly, it wasn't like that. It was really important for the older statesmen of the music to really share the knowledge with the younger generation that's coming up. And so, in turn, that's why I try to do as many master classes and these clinics as possible, because I feel that if I don't pass on what was taught to me, then I'm doing my heroes a service. So, the reason why I play is because I love it. Plain and simple. My father never pushed music on us. I have two younger sisters. But once he saw that I was interested in taking interest in it, he guided me and told me what albums to check out. And I fell in love with it. I always try to say that I don't think I chose the drums. I feel like the drums chose me. I feel that this is what I know. This is all I know. I'm not a carpenter or a painter, so this is my calling. And I fell in love with it. And this is why I do it.
Let folks know your current music out, where to find it, website, all that.
Find it right here.
That too. Immediate gratification.
I do have a website, JonathanBlake.com. Jonathan HNATHAN Blake.com. I do have 2 albums out. The latest is on, the left of Warmth and Not Forgotten. We just celebrated the release of that. We just did a CD release party yesterday and Tuesday evening at the Jazz Standard.
Mm-hmm.
That's the latest one. The one prior to that is entitled The 11th Hour. And, some of the music that we're playing today is actually featured on both of these records. But I'm on Facebook too, and Twitter, all the social media. So, any other questions?
When you're a leader of a group, does that affect what you do on the drums? And would you be able to explain how that works differently than when, say, you're assigning someone else's group?
Well, there's definitely a lot more responsibility as the leader of a band. Responsible for choosing the music that we're going to do, and and also, you know, I feel, you know, a little more weight on my, you know, or pressure, so to speak, not in a bad way, but to really figure out how to, you know, pace the set correctly, you know, how to make the right set tunes decisions in the set, how to shape the music, you know.
But what you actually play from the drums, is it different?
I don't think, you know, it's not, technically it's not different, you know. I mean, it might be different music than what we're playing tonight, or, you know. But, you know, as a sideman, you know, you're at the mercy of the leader. So, you know, some sidemen are more open and just say, you know, whatever play, I'm, you know, use your own judgment. And then you have other leaders who are more like, okay, I need this in this bar and this in this bar. And, you know, so it's, you know, you know, you're at the mercy there. But you know, I still try, you know, even in those settings, I still try to remain true to myself and figure out, you know, what I can do to shape the music in a certain way, and still, you know, keep the leader happy, keep a job. Does that answer your question?
Let's see, Ron, and then this gentleman here.
Two questions. If either one is one you respond to, if not, no, that's fine too. Sometimes I go to jazz concerts, I hear fabulous music, I buy, and then I find the CDs are not so good because, sadly, the production is not so good, you know, I don't know what to do about that. The second one is, relatively speaking, you're a young jazz musician, or sort of, how can musicians, jazz musicians your age or younger, can you make a living?
Yeah. I mean, I'm doing it. I have a wife and 2 kids, and you know, I do travel quite a bit. But yeah, you can make a living doing this. But you know, I feel you have to be open. You know, you can't just say, okay, I'm just going to play straight ahead jazz and that's it. So, you know, you have to be open to playing different types of music in different settings. You know, I've played in rock bands, played in rock shows, I've played hip hop, played R&B, you know, wedding bands. You know, you just have to be open.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you close yourself off and say, I'm only going to play this way and I'm only going to play this gig, then you're, you know, in a way, to me, I feel like you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Those musicians then just become college teachers and teach them.
Yeah, so maybe, you know,
Well, it's hard to do. I mean, it's a hard, jazz is like, it's a hard thing, it's like other kinds of art. You know, it's hard.
No, it takes a lot of diligence. You know, I'm not, like I said, you know, I do it because I love it. I'm not in it to get rich or anything. It's, you know, it's what I love to do, and I happen to be able to make a living at it. But you know, I found one of the things is that you have to do, you have to wear so many different hats. I'm a composer. I'm not just a player. So I've been commissioned to write for different things, and so you have to be able to be open and not be closed off, because you never know who's going to be on the other end of the phone. Sure. To answer your first question, I think sometimes there's certain restraints when you're in the studio, not just sonically, but also like, sometimes records have to be a certain length. And so, some of my favorite music is more of like, buying like if it's a live record or something like that, because there's a lot more freedom. They're not worried about time constraint or the song has to be this length. Sometimes when you buy those studio albums, sometimes they're working with the constraints of how long the CD has to be, and for radio play, it can't be over 5 minutes or something like that. So, sometimes that might be the cause of it.
So a lot of what you do as a drummer is keeping in time or staying in time or playing with time. Do you ever go out of time?
Oh yeah.
And so what's that about, and why do you do that?
It's about in the moment what when it calls for. At least that's how I feel. Sometimes you want to or in the case like if it's a solo, sometimes I might want to take a solo totally out of time just because the moment hit me this way. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm feeling this way. But then there's other times where okay, I'm going to really stick to the form of the tune and just play it, nail it down. But it's a lot of, like I mentioned earlier, it's a lot about communication and interaction. Noah or Henry might play something. Oh man, maybe I can go here, or it sounds like maybe they're going here, so maybe I'll change with them, or maybe I'll stick to what I'm doing and let them, do. But it's about communication when you're playing in a group, whether it's a trio, whether it's a big band, or quartet. It's the interaction that really that I think we feed off of as musicians. So it's not necessarily like okay, I'm going to play this in this bar because this is what it is and this is what it should be. It's very open. Like Noah was mentioning earlier, there's a fine line between structure. So it's with this music, it can change. The drop of the hat, and it's great. Sometimes we might play the same tune, but we might play it differently, and you might hear something that I didn't hear that before, but this is great. Now maybe I can do this because I heard something. So kind of feeding off of one another, like in a split second.
I would like, if you don't mind, waiting until after this tune, and we'll take your question next. This segues into an idea that I had, and you can veto it because it's. But why don't we on this next one play the melody together rubato once and then bring it into time? Sure. It's not how we rehearsed it, but so taking time and playing with that can happen with one musician sort of obscuring the structure. Like if the tempo is still doing this, but one of us or more of us is playing in a way that draws attention away from that, but the actual relationship to this doesn't change, or the actual time, like this can dissipate, and which kind of has to be a whole band thing, because at that point you're completely dancing. So in music terms, we call this rubato, which is free time playing without a set sense of tempo, being able to speed up or slow down based on the way the music breathes. You hear this a lot in Romantic era European classical music. It's like Chopin is not supposed to be rigidly metronomic in tempo. So we're gonna play this out of time and then in time.
Yeah, sometimes that, to build on that a little bit, sometimes these things are talked about, beforehand, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes, somebody just start playing and like, okay, so maybe he's taking it out of time, maybe we can go with him, and then, the person might bring it in time and we go in time. So it's not necessarily always talked about, and sometimes it is.
So why don't you introduce the tune and then we'll go for
it. This is a tune actually by my father. This is a tune that's never, actually it just got, prior to this is a tune that he wrote maybe late 70s, early 80s, that was never recorded. And I think it was in January, I took part in a recording with a student of my father who asked if I had any of my father's music. I decided to break this one out because it had never been recorded. I wanted to hear it live and how it sounded in the setting. It was a quartet, violin, bass, piano, and drums. So this is entitled Warmth and Innocence.
Yeah, because you compose, did you formally study composition, it's just something you do, and what do you compose on the piano?
I do compose on the piano. I mentioned a gentleman by the name of Lovin Hines earlier, and he started as youth ensemble. He had it for many years, but when I became affiliated with it, I was maybe preteen, maybe 12 or 13, and he started encouraging us early on to start composing music. So that's where I kind of started. That's when I kind of started getting into writing my own material. And then when I did go off to college, I had already started writing, as I mentioned, and then I just expanded on it. But then actually I took some time off. I was traveling a lot with a band called the Mingus Big Band, and we were playing all the music of late great Charles Mingus. And then when my wife in 2005 became pregnant with our first child, I wanted to take some time off from the road. I wanted to be there, of course, for the birth of my first child. So I knew taking time off was going to, hurt a little bit financially. So I went back to school, and there was a program at Rutgers University where I got my graduate degree and master's, and I actually got it in composition. And I studied with a wonderful pianist and composer by the name of Stanley Cowell.
Oh, wow, bless him.
Took an independent study course with him actually, and that's where that's where it really started to composition started opening up because he had me doing like weekly assignments where I had to come up with a piece based on a particular device he would give me. Maybe like he has this thing what he calls mirror image. Where what you're playing, your right hand is mirrored what's playing. Your left hand is mirroring whatever your right hand is. A piece of his called Kalamazoo. And so he would give me different devices like that, but on weekly, right tune based on fourths, And so each week I had to come in with with a piece based on whatever the assignment was. So that really, because before that I was starting to feel like, man, I'm in a rut. I can't, get out what I want to do, and just by him simply doing that, really helped me to open up and be able to, get the creative juices.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I was wondering, particularly the two of you, how much awareness do you have in knowing the ride that you're taking the listener to? In other words, there's a song Miller, I noticed your name is Henry. There was a part that you just smiled. Are you saying, do you say to yourself, damn, we sound good? No, there was a part in this song, you could just see the flow in you. Are you seeing, wow, that's a sexy tune?
But you can feel that firsthand.
No, definitely, it wasn't like a patting on my own back.
No, it's okay not to be egotistical. I was just wondering, is that?
No, I don't know. I wish I knew which point you were talking about. But it's often very, very functional too. I think earlier I remember smiling at Noah because we didn't. There was a part we kept overlooking that we did correctly. So I know I looked over and smiled at him at that moment.
And that's every time we played it in the rehearsal, and I got it right that time.
And so we did it right.
It's not of approval.
So like a smile like that could be very functional. Like, hey man, we didn't screw that up, or somebody plays something that just strikes you funny. Even listening back to it, you might be like, oh, I guess that wasn't so funny, or whatever. But there's something unexpected or something, so it doesn't necessarily. Yes, there's a lot of reasons why, but I don't normally, personally, set out to. And this sounds bad, but I don't mean it in a bad way. I don't normally set out to please the audience because I feel like then I think you get into trouble, just because then you lose sight of what you're trying to do with your instrument. If oh man, what do you think they want to hear? Oh man, we just did a ballad kind of a three of this ritual. I think if you're genuine about what you're doing and the three of us are genuinely trying to communicate with one another, you guys will respond to that, and everybody ends up enjoying by virtue of the fact that we're just being genuine and trying to communicate with the three of us. And I think it just kind of pulls everyone in when that is happening. It's up here, I think it's just, because that's the goal, at least for me when I play. Like, I just want to, so it's ideal for me to play with people who, where we can do that. Because, there are plenty of gigs, like Johnathan was saying, when you're doing it professionally, sometimes you have to play, not have to, but sometimes you get hired to play, say, a wedding reception. You're not going to go in there and go bonkers, because you have like, you're serving more of a function, I guess would be a way to put it. So, these situations are great because you guys came and expected to hear us improvise and interact, and I feel that's what we do. And yeah, I think it's infectious when it feels right up here, for you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, really the primary reason to play jazz, as far as I'm concerned, aside from the incredible financial gain and societal is the opportunity for transcendence. When you're playing music that is primarily functional, as Henry was saying, whether it be background music at an event or even certain dance music where it may be really exciting, but your job is to play a repetitive and predetermined part within the music, then there isn't the opportunity for it to transcend and find something new. When you do find that, it's a source of joy that is kind of hard to equal in other facets of life. And so I don't think that when those moments happen, I ever have any tangible set of words or associations to attach to it, which is another reason to play jazz, frankly, because it provides the opportunity to tap into emotional and spiritual places that don't have linguistic comparisons. So it's sort of like, okay, we just found something, and let's hang on to it. Let's catch the wave and hang on to it as long as we can. And yeah, it is a source of tremendous joy when you can get there. So I'm glad that if you're experiencing at least a little bit of the joy shrapnel, so to speak. If anyone else wants to take that term and run with it, I don't think I'll be so I think, oh yes, Michael.
I really like the surfing imagery because it's not only you guys playing, it's also, as you say, catching a wave for which you're not entirely responsible and riding it. So it's like, you're also catching the composite psyche of each of us, the room as a kind of feeling space, and you're riding that as much as you're riding your own knowledge and communication, and we really feel a part of that. That's what this by the way is wonderful to play and to have people ask questions. That's rare. That never happens. This is great.
I love that.
Thank you.
We really get to see, what each individual is thinking, or how they're, with their expectations, or not expectations, but what their view was on the music or what they're feeling. Henry brought up a good point. It's for us, it's about honesty, about really, playing honest music, and not goofing off, so to speak. Because I think when the music is honest, you guys feel it. Maybe you might not necessarily like everything you do, but it's honest, and I think you guys feel it, and we hope that you do it. Yeah, we might smile, like you said, we played something correct, and we're like, oh God, but we'll also smile with enjoyment because we're doing something that we love to do. We don't. There's some people that don't always get to say that. Well, they do something that they love. Sometimes they just, they have to do a certain job because this is what they need, you know, to make each and every living. But you know, we're here, we're doing something that we love to do, and you know, it's great when we have these kind of opportunities to have interaction with it, you know, with the audience members, because you know, I love it. I always say that we try to take, you know, everybody on a journey. You know, we're, you know, taking on this, you know, and the story in a way also. You know, we try to take you along for the ride. It's great to see how you guys feel about it after we play. Thank you all.
So here's the bad news. There's a point in the not too distant future at which the library will close. We were actually supposed to be done right about now, but we're going to play one more because I said so. I don't want to send this guy home without playing at least one more of these beautiful tunes that you like. So, what do you think?
Yeah. This is an original composition. One of my favorite jazz composers, great pianist, Thelonious Monk.
Oh.
So this is a piece that I wrote based off of one of his compositions. The composition that I based it off of was called Evidence. So I basically took evidence and flipped it upside down and called it Clues.